It's Ashley.
And Bianca.
And you're listening to Creep It Real. We're the sexy, creepy podcast. here to give you the willies in more ways than one. I don't know what that even means. I have no idea.
We're trying to rebrand ourselves,
everybody. Yeah. I just like the automatic deepening that goes on with my voice whenever I say, hey, everybody. Anyway, today we are going to cover spooky urban legends to carry on our spooky, creep it, spooky, I don't really know what we're calling it, but our creepy October situation that we've been doing.
So we're doing a little bit different of a format today. We're doing urban legends, but I don't know what Ashley's talking about, and Ashley doesn't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We've picked a couple different urban legends each, and we're going to be just as surprised by each other's topics as you are going to be by all of our topics.
Yeah, we never do this, but yeah, okay. So let's just get going. We know you don't like to hear us talking, apparently. I would love to hear us talk, but,
Me too. We've been doing it for 2 hours, so.
That's true. So I'm going to go ahead and start my first legend, and it's the legend of El Silbon. I just sounded like a white girl trying to say it. El Silbon. I'm like, El Silbon. How would you say it, Bianca?
El Silbon?
Yeah.
Do you want me to just insert myself when we edit this? I can just insert myself saying El Silbon.
That would be so creepy. Okay, so in English, this translates to the Whistler, and it is a legend that originated in the 18th century rural Venezuelan plains. It is told in various South American countries, from Venezuela to Colombia to Ecuador. He is considered to be a harbinger of death, which it's kind of par for the course with most cryptids, it seems. It's like, is every cryptid really a harbinger of death? Or, I mean, maybe, because maybe they're all the same exact thing, just being projected as different visual creatures. Mm-hmm. It's a possibility. Okay, so I'm going to call him the Whistler. They do that too, okay? So I'm just going to do it to save myself from having to say El Silbon over and over.
Ooh, you said that really well, though.
See, I can do it. I was like scarred for life because someone made fun of me one time when I was in Spanish class, and I just was like, after that, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't bring myself to do it. But you know what has helped me do things that make me feel like an idiot is the podcast. I do things that make me feel like an idiot all the time now.
Are you kidding me? Do you know how little I wanted to do an accent on Bumblebutt?
I know.
I was so nervous about it. Are you kidding me? But it took me out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, now I did it. And now I listened to myself do it. And I'm like, eh.
Yeah.
But it took me out of my comfort zone to the point where I was like, okay, I'm good.
I kind of forget that you're still like a baby. You're like a little baby podcaster at this point. Like I still am too, but like I've had like a year and a half to kind of do it, and it really has changed my entire life because it makes me do like I talk to people when I'm out and about, and I'm like, I would have been like, oh, to avoid sounding like an idiot, I'm not going to say anything to this person. And now I'm like, I'll sound like an idiot because guess what? We all fucking sound like idiots 9 times out of 10 in every situation of our days.
And you're never going to see me again, so I can sound like an idiot. I can be a fucking idiot, and you'll never see me again, so that's fine.
Okay, so this was a sidetrack. Okay, so back to the Whistler. Okay, so he is most often seen at night during the rainy season, which is February to May, wandering the plains on his search for victims to quench his thirst for death. So the story of El Silbon always starts with his son killing his father. One version states that the son returns home to find his father abusing his beautiful young wife, and in a fit of rage, he kills him. In another, the son is a spoiled brat, and his parents cater to his every whim. One afternoon, he demands asadura, a meal made from organ meat from his favorite deer. When his father returns home empty-handed, the son kills him and cuts out his heart and liver and makes his mother cook them for dinner. That's a bit extreme. Another twist to the spoiled brat themed story is the version in which, after being spoiled his whole life, leaving his parents' home to go off to live an indulgent, libertine lifestyle, he comes back home, woesome about all the bad things that he's done in his life due to his spoiled upbringing, and he has to kill his father to take revenge for this, which is very convoluted, I would say. It's a bit of a convoluted lesson they're trying to teach people, I think. And yet another version of this tale, the father refuses to let him feast on the innards and blood of a recently slaughtered deer, so he throws a fit, and the result is him gutting his father to force his mother to make a stew of his father's guts. So, the mother, finding the meat tough, starts to suspect something is amiss, and then realizes the organs are her husband's, and she then curses her son for an eternity. At this point, the stories become more streamlined through all the versions, and the mother usually gets a male relative to come get the son, who then ties him to a tree, whips him, and finishes the abuse off by rubbing lemon or hot pepper into the wounds that he has made with the whip. Then the male family member unleashes the vicious dog and orders it to go after the boy, which then pursues him relentlessly. His mother's curse has transformed him into a ghost, and he is condemned to wander the plains, carrying a sack of bones on his back. Some versions say that these are his father's, others state that they are the bones of his victims that he collects as he wanders the plains. El Silbon is described as being extremely tall and disproportionately skinny. He towers over the treetops with a bag of bones slung over his shoulder.
He towers over the treetops. So he's tall. I mean, he's really, really...
He's tall
very
as fuck.
Tall.
Yes, yes. He wears a tattered white suit and a wide-brimmed hat. And there is a vicious dog that chases him always, constantly nipping at his heels. It is said that few people who have seen him have lived to tell about it, and those who have say that he is seen sitting on a tree trunk, picking up dust with his hands when he's not, I guess, wandering around. I really have no idea why why he sits around picking up dust with his hands, but he does. He is known as the Whistler because he is heard whistling a tune, and he whistles the notes very slowly, drawing each one out nice and long. A warning is given in the stories in that his whistle is deceptive. It is said that when people hear the tune up close, they are actually safe because this means he's far away. But if they hear it from afar, they best beware because he's actually close. And this makes for a deadly scenario, as most people are not concerned by the whistling, thinking that he's far away, which is a mistake because once they finally realize he's there, it's too late and he has disemboweled them. Mm-hmm. It is often mentioned in the legend that El Silbon hunts down cruel men who cheat on wives and also attacks drunks when they're fast asleep. For the cheaters, their skin and bones are removed from their bodies and are placed in the whistler's sack along with his father's. Some scholars believe that this legend was created as a form of societal control to prevent men from infidelity. In the latter stories of the drunks, a gruesome detail states that he uncovers their belly buttons and then sucks until the alcohol comes out of them, which I was like, this sounds kind of... this is sounding mildly salacious. But yeah, so he sucks the alcohol out of their belly buttons. Yeah. Which is gross in itself. In Central America, this is a universal theme, as ghosts often punish drunks in legends, I guess, in Central America.
Yeah, that's true.
Is it? Okay. A terrifying aspect of the legend is that El Silbon enters people's homes at night and he lays a sack of bones on the floor where he begins to count them. If no one hears the clatter of bones or notices his presence, one member of the household will die by morning. As with most legends, there are ways mentioned in the stories that you can try to protect yourself. And in the case of El Silbon, you can remind him of his terrible crime and why he's cursed. And you can also keep items handy that he's most afraid of, namely a whip, hot peppers, or a dog. So just have a dog.
Well, that's in every Latin household.
All of those things? Okay. In the eastern plains of Colombia, where they call him the Whistler, that they all call him the Whistler. They believe that he is the wandering soul of a womanizer who died in solitude, and people affirm that he seeks the company of someone who at that time of night dares to ride. Also in Colombia, others say that the Whistler pursues the pregnant women, that his whistle penetrates the ears and infuses cold, and that if someone hears it in a sharp tone, it predicts the death of a woman. So I'm going to tell a full legend of El Silbon. When I was a little kid, my mother would tell me about El Silbon, or the man who whistles in English. The legend of El Silbon varies from person to person, but this is the version I grew up with, and personally the one I find most frightening. There was once a boy who lived happily with his mother, father, and grandfather in Los Llanos, maybe, a region in Venezuela. They lived a simple life of farming. However, the boy the parents raised was a very spoiled child. He would not eat certain foods and would cry out until his parents pleased him. One day, the boy asked his father to hunt deer for them to eat, as the deer was his favorite. The father decided to please his son and hunt a deer for him to eat. Sadly, after hours of searching, he failed to return with anything. Ever so hungry, upon seeing that his father had returned empty-handed, he took his father's hunting knife and killed him with it. At that moment, the mother and the grandfather rushed inside, only to find the boy standing over his father's corpse. As the mother cried for her husband, the grandfather took it upon himself to punish the boy. First, he tied the boy to a tree, and with a whip, he struck his back repeatedly until he bled. Then he would squeeze lemons on his back. And finally, he gave him a sack filled with his father's remains and cast him away into the plains to carry them as he set the dogs after him. But before he unleashed the dogs, as the boy walked away, his grandfather cursed him. He said, "You should not have done that to your father. You will be damned for the rest of your life." His grandfather yelled as he released his grip on ropes and freed the dogs. As the dogs chased him, the boy whistled in a very distinct manner, following the traditional musical scale, until the dogs finally caught up to him. And so the boy was cursed, left to wander the plains, bringing death to anyone whom he may happen to cross. Unlike other urban legends of my country, El Silbon does not pursue a specific brand of victims. He is regarded as an omen of death for anyone who wanders the plains at night. He would follow his victims first from afar until gradually catching up to them. He is tricky, for at first you will hear his whistling coming very close, prompting you to run away, and as you hear the whistling fade in the distance, you will feel relief as you think this means you are safe. But in reality, the further the whistle, the closer he is. He will have an old farming hat, he will be very skinny, but what will set him apart is that he will be carrying a large sack which clicks and clacks as he walks. Some say that inside the sack are bones of his latest victims, but more likely they are bones of his father. He is destined to carry them forever. So, the reason that I started reading that story was because I remember seeing on Reddit one time about this video that these people took in, like, Venezuela or something, of this river where I think they were, like, sitting on a boat and this whistling is going on somewhere in the night, and they're recording it, and it keeps like getting further away and like closer, and it just keeps happening over and over. And so I was like, that's very creepy, and then it ended up sending me down a El Silbon rabbit hole. But the wide-brimmed hat thing,
I don't like it. I don't know.
The Hat Man.
It kind of reminded me, like, just the fact that he's taller than the trees or whatever. It kind of reminded me of Slender Man.
oh yeah, so
I don't know. And then it's creepy because, I mean, you don't know you don't know exactly which victim or why he chooses whichever victim.
wandering around at night in the plains, maybe that would be your first. That's the first clue. Don't do that.
Maybe don't do it.
Yeah.
And definitely don't be drunk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're in trouble.
There are a lot of stories within Latin America where these creatures will try to seduce a drunk man or something and then turn into something devious and terrible.
Oh.
After. I don't know why. I guess we have a huge drunk problem.
Yeah, I was like, I guess it's just a measure created to try to keep the drunks down. Keep the drinking down. I don't think it helps, but
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess we can try.
I guess, I mean, everybody really has a drinking problem. The whole world.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all make
yeah.
Irish people and
Exactly.
Scottish people.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, but everybody's a drunk. I'm ready. I'm ready to get laid on by your urban legend.
Okay. So the first one that I found was about Turnbull Canyon. Do you know
what?
about Turnbull Canyon? Turnbull Canyon.
No.
So Turnbull Canyon is in Puena Hills, California, and it's literally right up the street from where I grew up. It's actually 12 miles away. I grew up in West Covina, and it's particularly eerie because I was driving up and down this road a lot recently before I moved.
Okay.
Like a lot.
Oh.
It was like my main place that I was doing walks and stuff.
Oh, you were walking. Okay.
Yeah. So there are 3 different legends that are associated with this particular area. There are spectral, watchers. There's legends of a cult and the hauntings of an old asylum.
Ooh.
Centuries ago, the local Native American tribes called what is now Turnbull Canyon Hutugna, and this roughly translates to the dark place. It was later renamed to Turnbull Canyon after murdered Scottish immigrant Robert Turnbull. So if you're from California or have visited California or you've ever heard of California, you know that this is an unusual name.
Of California.
You know that this is an unusual name for this region of the United States, which is known for its consistently 72-degree weather.
Yeah.
The name comes from the spectral residents of the canyon more than any lack of light or sunshine. And when the Spanish arrived with their missionaries and guns, they didn't pay much mind to the warnings of the Native Americans. The Spaniards called them Gabrieleños for their proximity to the local San Gabriel mission. And the Spanish forced the poor people, kicking and screaming, into the canyon that they feared so much. There, the natives were made to either convert to Christianity or be killed. And some Spaniards thought that by making them face their fears, they would be more willing to accept the faith that brought them there. However, the opposite was true. The natives seemed to give up and seemed to resign themselves to their fate. A particular shaman stated, "Now we are without hope. Now we remain for as long as the sun rises and sets in the sky." Today, Puente Hills locals and visitors alike feel the gaze of hundreds of eyes on them as they explore Turnbull Canyon, especially when they near Turnbull Canyon's water tower. It is believed that every Native American who was killed in this area remains to this day waiting for the sun to go out.
That's terrible. Did you feel it? Did you feel it? No?
No.
Okay.
I don't know, but maybe I'm not
sensitive.
Maybe I'm not sensitive enough to feel that kind of stuff. Because I've been in areas where people are like, "Oh, it's haunted, it's spooky," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." But maybe I just repel it.
Well, or some people are just like, a gust of wind, a ghost. You know, you just have to find middle ground, maybe.
Yeah.
But also, maybe we're not sensitive in that way. I don't think
because you haven't seen anything either, right?
Never in my life that I've known. And I was wondering the other day, I'm like, are we just surrounded by stuff all the time and that we just can't see? Is that what's happening? Or what? Nothing? I mean, who the hell knows? But I've never seen a damn thing. I'm just oblivious.
Yeah. The only things that I feel are like positive energy, like, you know, like positive things, like positive synchronicities and that happen to me. I'm like, oh, this is positive. Well, like, I don't know.
That's good. I mean, I am really sensitive to human beings' vibes and emotions that they're experiencing, but I don't. If I can't see ya, I don't see ya.
Yeah. So the next legend that's associated with Turnbull Canyon is that of a cult. During the Great Depression, rumors began that Turnbull Canyon was the site of strange rituals involving a child and baby selling cult. Some claim that the area is still used for satanic worship or something equally evil. An anonymous source recently reported an old metal sign far up the canyon that was spray painted with the words, "Die Jesus." Now, I don't know, this area, I mean, it's not, I wouldn't be surprised if people just spray painted dumb shit onto things like "Die Jesus." So
it could just be somebody that hates Christians.
Yes.
The new name for them.
Yes. A large group of men and women, no children, wearing black robes black as midnight and enacting strange rituals each night have also been seen. One witness carefully snuck up on the camp and was able to take a close look at one of their rites and was able to return to tell the tale. He said that a young boy, 12 at most, was strapped to a cross in the center of a circle of people. Entranced and paralyzed with fear, this Puente Hills resident watched as the robed figures danced around and around, chanting in a language he could not recognize but sent a chill down his spine. After a time, the chanting suddenly increased in intensity. The cross was hoisted upright, the child struggling but unable to cry out through the rough cloth that had been stuffed in his mouth. Pulling the cross back down and then hoisting it up the other way, the townsmen finally truly realized what was happening. It was an upside-down cross. Eventually, their fury subsided, and so did the blows. Peering close, the Puente Hills resident breathed a sigh of relief to see the boy was still breathing. But what happened next would haunt him. They took the boy away. They simply removed him, stuffing him into a large sack and tossing it roughly into a wagon. The man returned to town to tell the tale, but he was not believed until some months later when a rash of kidnapping and disappearances struck the area. By the time the townspeople gathered their weapons and rode out to Turnbull Canyon to put a stop to the horror, the cult had scattered. They were gone, and as for the boy, he was never seen again.
Was that boy named Johnny Ghosh?
I think it was.
That's mean.
That's mean.
Have you? Well, okay. Okay.
The final couple include an asylum, an insane asylum. It was apparently once located somewhere in the now weed-choked floor of Turnbull Canyon. It was super successful in the 30s, but ended up burning down in the early 40s. And then sometime around 1962, a group of teenagers were partying in the ruins, and legend has it that one of the most daring boys was killed by the remains of a long dormant electroshock device, which pumped several thousand volts into his body. Witnesses have also experienced ghosts of children, which are presumably victims of the kidnapping cult, and figures swinging by the neck from the limbs of scraggly trees, although most of the scarier information on the canyon comes from a website of kind of dubious
repute.
Yes. Finally, there's Gravity Hill. I actually had a teacher in high school. His name was Mr. Demke. And even he would talk about Gravity Hill in Turnbull Canyon. Okay. He was a really cool teacher. Yeah. Super cool teacher. So what he said that you would do is you'd put your car in neutral at the bottom of a hill, and if it would get pushed up the hill. Mm-hmm. And once you stopped it, you would see small handprints on your car as if there were children pushing your car up. And this is debated because it's almost impossible to locate, since you're probably going to be rear-ended by a drifter up there, and people don't typically stop on Turnbull Canyon. It's super, super popular for people who just want to race up in the hills. That is a legend that spans across the country. There are places all across the country. There's one in San Antonio here. There are so many of those, and it's so funny because I just was reading about this, and they were talking about how a lot of those places where that happens, it's actually just an optical illusion, as far as that it's actually going downhill, but it looks to be going uphill because of whatever reason. Okay, were you about to say that or no? No, okay. I wasn't. But that's an observation that I made too, because I've heard of gravity hills everywhere, but I've also heard that it is an optical illusion.
So interesting. Yeah. It's so interesting how legends they just spread everywhere, and how they like shape certain aspects of our culture. It's like so crazy. I just can't believe that there's a place where little kids' hands are supposed to push your car across train tracks. Everywhere.
Every state.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's so crazy. I've only done one legend before, and it was the Cropsy episode that I did by myself. All right, this next one is coming at you, campers, to make you question the decision you're making to do your beloved camping activities, like it has me. Partially me. There's a lot of things that are making me question that, but yeah, this is one of them. Okay, this is the legend of Stick Indians, and in English, so whatever. Okay, so Stick Indians are malevolent and extremely dangerous forest spirits. They are a legend of many Salish and other Northwest Indian tribes. The name Stick Indian is obviously an English euphemism, and the actual Salish name is warned never to be spoken in public, as it is said to provoke their attacks. The description of Stick Indians varies by tribe, as the Salish believe them to be large, hairy, Bigfoot-like creatures, and the Cayuse and Yakama tribes describe them as forest dwarves. So that's quite a difference in description, but they are the same idea, I guess. In some traditions, the Stick Indians have powers that allow them to paralyze, hypnotize, or cause instantaneous insanity in unfortunate individuals. In others, they lead people astray by eerily whistling or with laughter coming from the woods at night. In all legends, they are said to cause confusion, dread, and anxiety, especially with people who are wandering solo.
I mean, if you need any more anxiety while you're wandering solo.
The disembodied laughter coming from the woods is enough to make me... The idea of it is enough to make me never want to fucking do it ever again. And these Stick Indians, they eat people, they rape women, they kidnap children, and they take aggressive revenge against anyone who has disrespected or injured them, whether it was on purpose or not. They are nocturnal beings and are almost never actually seen. It is said that their language sounds like the birds and other animals, not human speech, so you can't ever actually hear them speaking, because their communication is confused with cougar growls and bird chirps and, you know, the trees.
Okay.
The origins of...
So how do I know if one is around me?
Well, because you're going to hear weird whistling and laughter coming from the woods. Nope.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
No big thing.
Yeah, okay.
The origins of their name is said to be derived from the fact that they live in the forest among nature, unlike other tribes that do not do that. The Crow Nation tribe calls the beings Nirumbi, which are a race of ferocious dwarves. And I guess now that I've said that out loud, I've invited this little guy into my life. So that's great. So these stories about Stick Indians have been going back in publications at least to the early 1900s. A Yakama Indian, Simon Gowdy, which I'm probably butchering his name, told the following story about the Steyaha, or Stick Shower Indians, to L.V. McWhorter in 1916. So the word Steyaha, or the plural Steyahama, translates roughly as the follows: spirit hiding in the cover of the woods, which doesn't give me a great sense of security. I just don't like the idea of it. You know, if anyone has been out hunting, if anyone's been out in the wilderness at night, you know, when you're out there just kind of fending for yourself, that's like the most vulnerable feeling in the whole world, you know? And, like, to think that there not only are animals out there that could kill you, but that there's, like, some sort of spirits that live in the woods that could be coming to get you is just too much for me to handle.
Yeah, I mean, I just wouldn't go out there because of the animals, let alone to think that there could be something else to get me. I just...
And I feel like we're going to deep dive into this kind of stuff when we cover Missing 411. But anyway, so the Steyaha, or stick shower Indians, are a mysterious and dangerous... This is what this Native American had told this paper in 1916. The stick shower are a mysterious and dangerous people whose general habitat is the lofty forest regions of the Cascade Mountains. They haunt the tangled timber falls, which serve them as domiciles or lodges. They are as large as the ordinary Indian. Their language is to mimic notes of birds and animals. Nocturnal in habit, they sleep or remain in seclusion during the day and consequently are only seen on very rare occasions. It is under the cover of darkness that they perform the acts which have fastened upon them the odious appellation stick shower. It is then that they thrust sticks through any opening of the teepee or hunter's lodge, or shower sticks upon the belated traveler. The Indian who is delayed or lost from the trail is very apt to receive their attention. He may hear a signal, perhaps a whistle, ahead of him. Should he follow the sound, it will be repeated for a time. Then he will hear it in the opposite direction, along the path he has just passed. If he turns back, it will only be to detect the mysterious noises elsewhere, leading to utter confusion and bewilderment. When the traveler is crazed with dread or overcome by exhaustion and sleep, it is then that the stick shower scores a victory. Regaining his head or awakening from slumber, the wanderer is more than likely to find himself stripped of all clothing, perhaps bound and trussed with thongs. He is fortunate to escape with his life.
So the moral of the story is don't follow any whistling
No
you
whistling.
ever hear, and don't run away from any whistling you ever hear, ever. Just don't. Don't pay attention to the whistles.
Whistles are bad. We know this. Women know this. Whistles are not good. He says the stick shower is a tall, slender being. He is a good runner, and he has medicine which gives him swiftness and strength. Some Native Americans claim that he has medicine that renders him invisible. They go long distances in one night. Maybe they hunt over on the Columbia River, and then the next morning they are over miles and miles away at the Yakima River. They are good hunters, and nothing can get away from them. Nothing can escape them. No thanks.
I don't know what it is about Native American lore, but it's like, I don't know, it just, that for some reason freaks me out the most.
Yeah, well,
it could be, Latin American lore doesn't really scare me. I'm like, meh. But Native American lore, like the Skinwalker stuff and like gives me the heebies.
Skinwalker is truly just the best and scariest thing of all.
All right. The final urban legend that I looked up is something that I've wanted to do for a long time. It's based on the following poem. He is of the seeing visions. His strokes reveal them in a rush of color, of madness, of mystics. And his head is the highest center. It must confront its enemy. The hands resist him, like the secret of his birth. His presence is the sanctum heartbeat, felt in darkness and in passion. Its sound the sole gift to that silence. The poem's called The Hands Resist Him.
You've known this for your entire life?
Not my entire life, just...
Okay.
Just like months. I've just like really wanted to cover this.
Okay.
The poem is called The Hands Resist Him and inspired the painting of the same name. It is known as the internet's most haunted painting. It's an urban legend. It's not a haunting.
Okay.
Created by artist Bill Stoneham in 1972. It depicts a young boy standing next to a sinister-looking doll against a glass door. If you look closely, you can see small hands behind the glass door reaching towards the boy. According to the artist, the boy in the painting is based on a photograph of him when he was 5 years old.
Oh, I just looked it up.
You looked it up?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of it?
Well, that's creepy as fuck, dude.
It's the painting gives like a feeling of like foreboding, or a lot of people who see the painting just immediately feel like uneasy looking at it.
Yeah, I would agree.
The painting was originally purchased by actor John Marley, who is best known for his role in The Godfather. He was in the bed with the horse's head.
Okay.
Anyways.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
You haven't seen The Godfather?
Not really.
You're like, I've seen Cannibal
Cannibal Corpse.
Yeah. But I haven't seen The Godfather. Okay, that's fine.
You know. Cannibal Holocaust.
And sometime after Cannibal Holocaust is the one that I was thinking of. Sometime after Marley's death, the painting was found on the site of an old brewery by an elderly Californian couple. And shortly after, the painting appeared on the auction website eBay in February of 2000. You know, I had to explain what eBay was.
Thank you. Thank you for all of us that are unaware of that strange site you're talking about.
Have you heard of it? I don't know. Very, very small website. According to the seller, the painting carried some form of curse. The eBay description made a series of claims that the painting was haunted. Included in those claims were that the characters in the painting moved during the night, and they would sometimes leave the painting and enter the room in which it was being displayed. Also included with the listing were a series of photographs that were said to be evidence of an incident in which the female doll character threatened the male character with a gun that she was holding, causing him to attempt to leave the painting. So the disclaimer that was included with the listing, absolving the seller from all liability if the painting was purchased, is as follows. In all caps, warning. Do not bid on this painting if you are susceptible to stress-related disease, or if you are faint of heart or are unfamiliar with supernatural events. By bidding on this painting, you agree to release the owners of all liability in relation to the sale, or any events happening after the sale that might be contributed to this painting. This painting may or may not possess supernatural powers that could impact or change your life. However, by bidding, you agree to exclusively bid on the value of the artwork with disregard to the last two photos featured in this auction, and hold the owners harmless in regard to them and their impact expressed or implied.
There's a part of me that's like, how much of that was a sales ploy? And then the other part of me is like, what is going on here?
Mm-hmm.
I'm torn.
So you're right. News quickly spread about this haunted painting, and the eBay page received over 30,000 views, and the painting eventually sold for $1,025. Maybe somebody at the end was like, I'll just bid $1. I'll just bid $1 above the last bid.
Yeah.
The buyer, Perception Gallery in Grand Rapids, Michigan, eventually contacted Bill Stoneham and related the unusual story of its auction on eBay and their acquisition of it. He reported being quite surprised by all the stories and strange interpretations of the images in the painting, and Stoneham recalls that both the owner of the gallery in which the painting was first displayed and the art critic who reviewed it died within 1 year of coming into contact with the painting.
Is that real?
Because of the internet sensation, Stoneham came forward with what inspired him to paint such a haunting scene. The boy, he said, was himself, and it was modeled on a photograph, like I said earlier, taken when he was 5. The title comes from a poem written by his then wife. It reads in part, "The hands resist him like the secret of his birth." Stoneham was adopted. The children's hands, he said, represent other lives, the glass door, the barrier between worlds, and the doll, his guide between those worlds.
Okay. Why does he look like why did he paint himself as like a dark-eyed... I don't know, maybe that's just his style. I feel like he knew what he was doing.
I think that's his style. There are sequels to the paintings. One is called Resistance at the Threshold, and it depicts the same characters 40 years later in the same style as the original. And then there's another one called there's a second sequel called The Threshold of Revelation. And it says that it resolves mysteries of the boy's life, including that of the doll, who was perhaps his real sister, discovered late in their lives. And it was completed in 2012, and you can see it on his website.
Okay.
Several years later, a third commission was requested as a prequel, and he created The Hands Invent Him, depicting the artist as a boy who is behind the original painting's door and who holds a paintbrush, amongst other visual elements.
This is giving me a very House on Haunted Hill vibe or something.
So I say it's an urban legend because it just came out in 1972, and it's mentioned as an urban legend.
Yeah. Well, that guy knows how to paint a creepy painting. That's for sure. We'll post it.
Yeah, we should.
We'll post all the images. We'll post the Whistler, El Silbon, the Stick Indians, Turnbull Canyon, and then this painting that's really... I don't know why anyone would want to put that in their home.
I don't know. It's very eerie. It's very creepy. It's very... I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely not something that I would want hanging in my home or...
Hell no.
An apartment or something.
It's
absolutely
like
not.
A very dark vibe comes off that thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, spooky urban legends. I really love urban legends. I just think they're so much fun, and it's just amazing to me that these stories, how they evolve through different time periods and carry on over communities and cultures. It's just kind of fascinating to me, the whole thing.
Yeah, the El Silbon, I mean, even though there are different variations on the origin story, they're all very similar. It's interesting.
Yeah. And I'm sure do urban legend stories again, but there were so many that I wanted to do that it's kind of hard to come up with like a cohesive way to talk about it. And then what was the other thing that I was thinking? Oh, I really wanted to do where I was finding these stories of people like hitchhikers, for example, who would get a ride, then be demanded to be let out of the car, and then they would go off somewhere, and then all of a sudden, and they'd be waiting for them, and then they're like, they're not coming, I guess I'll just leave. And then all of a sudden they look, and the hitchhiker is now running on all fours after them. Which that is horrible. I don't, like thinking about like a human being moving in that way is so creepy. But when I started to kind of look into that whole thing more, because there's not really like a name for it necessarily, they have different names. Apparently there's all these sightings of something like that in Texas where it's like a human that all of a sudden is running around on all fours at some obscene speed. But there are all these names, and like when you really try to go look it up, you can't find anything about it. But then it started to where it started turning into people were saying it was skinwalkers, and I was like, well, I can't do skinwalk, even though we didn't do skinwalkers necessarily. We did Skinwalker Ranch, but I did talk about skinwalkers for like a while. So, and I feel like everyone's like, okay, with the Skinwalker Ranch. Can we move past
She's proud
that,
of it.
please? I'm proud. It's my favorite topic. It's just, it encompasses every possible weird...
I feel like we should start a segment where it's like, figure out where we're going to put Skinwalker Ranch.
Here it is. For this episode. My one reference. Okay, so thanks for listening, everyone, to this amalgamation of stories, urban legends. We appreciate your support. Everybody has been really great lately, and we've been getting a 5-star review a day for like a week now. I swear.
It has been so great. I've woken up and I'm like, yay!
Yeah.
Like it makes my entire day. I feel so happy and I feel so excited.
Yes.
And I'm so happy everybody's liking
Yeah,
it.
I mean, it really does. I think when last episode when we were reading stories, maybe there was somebody that said, like, I know it doesn't matter, but I love you guys. It's like, hell no, dude, y'all don't understand. It just really is a huge, huge boost to our just overall morale.
Yeah. Honestly, it's one of those things where we're like, do you think people are I mean, we do it for us because it's a creative outlet for both of us, and we get to sit here and look at each other and love each other. But it's so nice hearing.
Yeah.
We just got a message on Instagram talking about how their Lash Girl plays us during their appointments during the whole month of October.
That's
and that is so amazing. Like,
I mean, it's just, you know, I've been a little creepy little baby for my whole life. The librarian was saving all those true crime and haunted books for me since I was a little kid, and to think that all these years later, if only I'd known, because I'm like, if only I'd known, I wouldn't have killed myself when I was 17.
But you didn't.
I know. So that's like, what am I saying? But, you know, it's just amazing to think that now people actually listen to me to scare them. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It fucking rocks. Yeah. It's awesome.
Well, myself included. I mean, like I always tell you, our relationship started so weird because I was a listener, dude. Like, it's weird.
Yeah.
And now you're my little bean, and you're my bestie, and you're the love of my life. All right. Thank you, guys.
Okay, guys, go to the store and buy some food.
What? What if they have a stocked up kitchen?
Okay, don't do that. Everybody go follow us on Instagram, CreepItRealPod. Send us an email, creepitrealpod@gmail.com, if you want us to cover anything, if you want to say anything to us, if you want to just be like, y'all are the best thing that's ever happened to me. I want to pay you $200,000 to just be yourselves. I mean, what an email. What a nice, generous thing.
What an email. That would be a great email. We have a lot of people who are like, where's your Patreon? Where's your Patreon? It is in our Instagram. There's a link in our bio if you want to donate to Patreon.
Yeah.
Or if you don't want to go to the link in our bio, it's patreon.com/creepitrealpod. Also, thank you guys so much again for all of the reviews. And again, if you haven't, please go on over to iTunes. It really does help us grow, and it really does help us it helps us. Just in case. It helps us to grow.
Just in case the past 7 times she said it, it really does help us grow. So help us grow. Share us with your family and friends and any little creepy weirdos that you know. Also, guess what? It's about to be cold outside. Aren't you going to need to stay warm? I think you might. If you want to keep warm in some Creep It Real gear, then go ahead and head over to our Instagram. I think we should put a link there, and when this episode comes out, we'll have a sale going.
Oh, and if you do that, send us pictures of you and your gear.
Yeah. Okay, so get ready for us to come back at you next week with another creepy topic for the month of Halloween.
They should just rename October to Halloween.
Yeah, for the month of Halloween. And so yeah, hope you enjoy. Have a good life. We'll see you next week.